Hello, everyone. It's good to see you this evening. Welcome, one and all, for those that have been able to join in. I wanted to wait for others to join, but it's 5 minutes past time, and we will not wait any longer. So anybody that's not here with us, we join us later. It is a pleasure for me to be facilitating this section, one out of so many that will come. And like you saw the flyer that went out, it's just an opportunity to familiarize ourselves with the new, and I'll describe it as soon to come opportunities that's available to us here in the UK, particularly with the Brexit that's going to happen on the 1st of January 2020. So as something to focus on is just a kind of overview of the process that one might want to take to accomplish our ambition to practice here in the UK, some kind of practical hacks about different routes that is available. As a word of introduction to our housekeeping, you have been muted just so that we don't have interference in the sound effects from several background where we are all tuning in. You will have opportunity to pose your questions using the chat functions, and your question will be addressed at the end of the section. These sections will be recorded and subsequent others so that it will be made available to those that need it. So like I said, if you need it at the end of the section, just an email away and it will be made available to you. We're going to go through a few things. First of all, we'll just have a kind of reflection on the new immigration rule that's going to take effect after Brexit, that's going to be concluded on the 31st of December this year. The implication is that we're going to have a point-based system. And I'm going to take us through the implication for different healthcare professionals, as each of you might be a member of one. And then we go through the implication for our spouses, for those of us that are married or family members. And then we take questions. Unfortunately, this introduction webinar may not benefit immensely some group of individuals who have gone several steps ahead of others. I'm aware that some of you who are attending may have registered or have gotten licensed, and some of you may have written several parts of the exams. Some of them may have even gotten visas. So it is not some kind of detailed webinar on some specific things, but then your concerns or your question will be addressed, your specific questions will be addressed at the end when we have time to do that. We will have subsequent seminar or subsequent webinar that will address in details each specific profession and each specific task routes, and that's we did. Provide a detail and address all the things that each and every one of us will be needed. Our target, my group and I, we aim to make sure that each and every person that come our way is provided with all the guidance, the details of the guidance on all possible fastest and most convenient, and I would say tailored approach or route that best suits each and every one of us, because we know our preferences, and yes, our preferences differ. We start off with the new immigration rule. We are well aware of the Brexit independence vote that took place in 2016. And the UK voted to leave the EU, but the process to leaving the EU had been a kind of Royal Rumble wrestling, I would say. It's like a marriage between a husband and a wife. They still loved each other, but then love is not good enough to maintain the relationship. So the UK people voted to leave the EU. So it had been a roller coaster since 2016 for the separation process or the divorce process to happen. And finally, it's coming to effect on the 31st of December. The implication is that there will be a new point-based immigration system replacing the old system whereby EU nationals and people from New Zealand and other affiliate nations who are recognized under the EA system are treated as UK nationals. The implication or what that has for us coming from Africa or from other country that's not part of the EU is that whatever opportunity arises, people from the EU or from Switzerland or from other affiliate nations, Australia, are treated first and foremost, so that less and less opportunity were available for us, and that put us at a very high disadvantage. But then with this new point-based system, what has happened is that other countries apart from UK are categorized equally as people from Africa and other nations that were a priori not part of the EU, such that when there are opportunities, we are given favorable, fair chance to compete with every other person outside the UK. The implication is that a new points-based immigration system is now in place, such that now it is possible to apply for a skilled work visa, and then the criteria that is required has been lowered. Now, two things has worked to our advantage. One is the Brexit. The second one is the coronavirus. Whenever I discuss with my friends, I'll say the new normal. There is no one here in the UK that even know what the new normal is going to be, because things are changing rapidly. Even guidelines are having in place. No one will know exactly what the guidelines are. So for some of you that are in the process of registering or have friends who have just licensed, you understand that a whole lot of things are changing. So what does the new point-based system entails? And for us who are health professionals, the implication is that almost all the health professionals are qualified for this skilled worker program, unlike many who were not qualified because of the entry-level salary that you need to earn before the new rule, which was more than £30,000. At the moment, it has been lowered to 25,100 something in that region, and all the healthcare professionals earn above that. But much more importantly, also, there is a healthcare worker visa, which makes it much easier for healthcare professionals to immigrate. So in addition to the skilled worker visa, healthcare professionals are treated much better in the visa application process. So under the healthcare worker system, there is the under the skilled workers visa, there is a healthcare worker visa. There is also the global talent visa for some of us who might want to go the route. If one goes through the route of the health workers visa, which is part of the skilled worker visas, you have to stay up to 5 years to get your permanent residence. But if you go through the global talent visa, you have to stay only 4 years to get your permanent residence. But again, if you go through the Tier 4 visa, that lasts, which is still available, you have to stay on to 10 years for you to get your permanent residence. But the good thing is, UK has reintroduced the 2 years post-study visa, which was scrapped when the Conservative came into power in 2010. So at the moment, we have 2 years for undergraduate and master's program, and 3 years post-study visa for PhD students. Now, I'll go to give some kind of rundown through what the process is for the different professions. I'll first of all take for that of medical doctors. I know lots and lots of medical doctors are in this webinar. Usually, what happens is that each professions engage with their regulatory bodies. And here in the UK, I'm well aware that the medical doctors among us here know about the General Medical Council. Of course, the General Medical Council is just like their counterpart in Nigeria, the Medical Council in Nigeria that regulates medical practice. Of course, what they assess individuals before registration here is the qualification, training, and experience. And before one begins any of the assessment process, I would say essentially there are 3 routes through which a medical doctor can plan to immigrate to the UK. I describe this particular route as the professional route, and that is in addition to master's route or PhD route. I will explain that later. So whichever route you want to take, professional route you want to take, it's essential that you have taken the English exam and have obtained overall grade of 7.5 and 7 in each of the testing area, which include the speaking, the listening, the writing, and one of them again. There are 4 sections. Yeah, so you have to score at least 7 in each of the sections and overall score of 7.5. You also have alternative to take the medicine version of the occupational English text, though this is not very popular, but it's also acceptable. And you have to score a score of B or above in each of the testing area of speaking as well, writing, talking, and listening. So let's go to the different professional routes one can explore. The first one I will usually describe is as the PLAB route. Now, this is more common to those that are newly graduated, maybe 0 to 1 year, that maybe just finish internship and all that. So PLAB, I'm sure the medical doctors, again, will be very familiar with PLAB, which the theory one, I would say, is written in Nigeria. There are usually 3 centers in Nigeria. So there's PLAB 1 and the PLAB 2, which is the practical sections that's involved objective clinical exams. So once you're done with the PLAB 1 and PLAB 2, that is it. So I'm just going to give a kind of summary. In subsequent webinars we organize, we will bring people who will give details of the process, depending on where each and every one of us here who is a medical doctor is going through. Now, the second route is the route I would describe as the Royal College exam route, which usually is for individuals that have had some training in the specialties. Some of you who have had part 1 in Nigeria, or maybe even those that have had part 2. This postgraduate registration process usually requires that one has taken up to 24 months training in your specialty. That means you would have written your primaries, have gotten into residency, have had some practice in the residency, maybe past part 1, and then before you apply. Now, there are discrepancies with respect to what each of the Royal College, because just like in Nigeria, where you have different colleges that are representing the specialties, so here also you have different colleges. So there is a lot of discrepancies. Some college will want you to have had some exposure, a little bit of exposure here. Some college do not require that. I'm aware of psychiatry. psychiatry at the moment. I'm not sure, very sure about pediatrics, but it depends on specialties. So you apply to them and then go through the exams. For this particular route, what happens is that it's just like you coming to do specialty training. Unlike the professional routes, sorry, the PLAB route, where you come in to be a specialty doctor, not specialist training, specialty doctor, which is just like your medical officer back in Nigeria. Then the third route is the route I usually describe as the training route as well. But in this case, okay, it's called the Medical Training Initiative Pathway, where universities or NHS here is the National Health System, just like how Nigeria, the university teaching hospitals or federal teaching hospitals, but here healthcare is decentralized into different regions and they are divided into trusts or boards. So it's different boards or different trusts depending on the region you are in the UK, or universities that are accredited for this training. They open up this training each year and people in Nigeria apply. People in other countries of the world also apply. So you apply and then get through the selection process. So when you get selected, you choose or be allotted to the trust that you want to work. Now for this particular application, the more experienced you are in your practice, the more your chance of succeeding. But again, you needed not to have started any of those processes of PLAB, particularly PLAB or postgraduate registration. So if you have started, you need to withdraw from the processes for you to be eligible. So that is for doctors. One last route I have seen a lot of people explore. A lot of my friends who are doctors are applying for a master's or a PhD, coming over here and writing the PLAB exams while they obtain their masters. A couple, I mean, I've known lots and lots of persons that have passed the PLAB exams, the 1 and the 2, while undertaking their masters or their PhD program. Having a look for the dentist. I know also a few dentists are here. With also, we have the General Dental Council, that is equivalent of the General Medical Council, regulates dental practice here in the UK. For professional routes to licensing towards immigration here in the UK. Of course, IELTS is still a compulsory requirement. In all the IELTS exams I've been mentioning, it's necessarily an academic IELTS, not the general IELTS. So you need a score of 7, unlike the medical doctors that need a score of 7.5. But then, as with the medical doctors, you need to score 7.0 in each testing area. And when you have your IELTS, your documents, you gather your documents and submit through the process they call the overseas registration exam process. So this process usually require a couple of parts, which part 1, where you do a testing after they've assessed your undergraduate, and then is equivalent. You do your the part 1 exams, and then part 2 exam, which are of different components, which we'll talk about much more in details when we have a seminar focused specifically for dentists. Then after you have passed through this part 1 and part 2, then you go through the registration with the GDC, which is the General Dental Council. Similar to what I've talked about before, also I have some friends who come in to do a master's or a PhD while undergoing the overseas registration exam pathway, and they have been very successful. I want to look at what happens to spouses and family members if we have already had one. I'm sure that a whole lot of us might have that at the back of our mind. If I'm going through this process and I want to come in, what happens to my wife, my husband, and my children if we've got one? For each of these routes, be it the skilled worker route, either the healthcare visa, the global talent visa, or the tier 4, the post-study, or the pre-doctoral or postdoctoral, the MSc route, the PhD route. They are, I mean, provisions for one to travel with his or her spouse, depending on and each of them have some financial requirements. The cheapest of them, of course, is the healthcare visa, which is like trying to remove all hurdles for healthcare professionals to immigrate, and majority of us will be able to get through the healthcare visa, particularly beginning from January. Again, the global talent, which is like the most competitive of all, because only selected few can get into the global talents. And how do we get into the global talent is just being highly exceptional in our profession, highly distinguished. They are looking for individuals who have made impact in their profession one way or the other. There are ways of applying to it. We'll come to it. We'll come to this because it's route a whole lot of individuals has not explored, and is the one that gives you the fastest track to becoming a permanent resident and citizen. And most persons are not going through it. Even when they are qualified, they don't know. And this is where most of the research fellowships fall into. The tier 4 visa, of course, once you have a tier 4 visa, depending on if you have your sponsorship or you are self-sponsored, you can be eligible for your spouse and your children to come in with you if you have the money to support them. And of course, the post-study visa also are given to spouses and children. The same goes with postdoctoral. Some of the postdoctoral fellowship can come in under the global talent visa, whereas some of them could just come in as a skilled workers program, depending on the type of postdoctoral fellowship one gets.